United Kingdom. As we close out today's edition of Jamaica Magazine, remember to always believe in yourself, even when no one else does. Do join us again tomorrow for another informative show. In the meantime, visit our website, jis.gov.jm, for more news you can use. On behalf of the entire production team, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Stay safe.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.
There are fresh questions this evening about the effectiveness of the Sexual Offenders Registry. The Office of the Public Defender has launched a formal investigation into how the registry is being managed, whether it's truly serving its purpose of protecting the nation's most vulnerable. But what will this investigation look like, especially with such an emotional subject at its core? The Public Defender herself joins me this evening for that discussion. Lead Story starts now. Hello and welcome. You're watching Lead Story. I'm Sondre Roden. Once again, Jamaica's Sex Offenders Registry is being talked about. Of course, you're hearing it all over the airwaves, but this time it's under scrutiny from a different perspective, a new perspective, the Office of the Public Defender. Now, the Office of the Public Defender has launched an official investigation into the registry's operations and effectiveness. And to help break it all down, my producer, has prepared this very interesting report.
The Office of the Public Defender has launched an investigation into the effectiveness and operations of the Sex Offenders Registry. Public Defender Mrs. Caroline Reed Cameron confirmed on Monday that her office is probing whether the registry designed to track and monitor convicted sex offenders is functioning as intended under Jamaican law. For a while, concerns have lingered over possible administrative lapses, limited public access, and inconsistencies in how the registry is maintained. The probe follows mounting calls from advocacy groups and concerned citizens who argue that the public has little or no knowledge of how the registry works, who appears on it, and how information is disseminated. Some have also raised concerns about the reintegration of offenders into communities without adequate oversight or notification to residents. The Office of the Public Defender has announced that its investigation will focus on 3 key areas: statutory compliance, assessing whether the registry has been implemented in accordance with the Sexual Offences Act, including the adequacy of resource allocation and adherence to established procedures; operational effectiveness, evaluating whether the registry's access and usage protocols are effectively safeguarding children and other vulnerable groups; constitutional balance, determining whether the registry appropriately balances individual privacy rights with the public's right to safety in accordance with the Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedoms. We discuss on Lead Story. Angela Melville for Lead Story.
Yeah, so that's our discussion this evening. Very interesting. I know you want to hear more, so don't go anywhere. Lead Story returns right after this break.
Millions of people are attacked by harmful mouth bacteria. The root cause of bad breath, gum problems, cavities, plaque, and tartar. That's why Colgate combined the best science and technology in Colgate Total. Unlike others, its superior formula fights bacteria and creates a powerful protective barrier for up to 24 hours to prevent them from coming back. Take control of your oral health with Colgate Total.
The gateway for Jamaica's athletes to several international competitions, including the World Athletics Championships in Tokyo, Japan, opens from Thursday, June 26 to Sunday, June 29 for the J3A Junior and Senior National Championships at the National Stadium, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. each day. Admission, finish area season ticket, $8,000. Daily, $1,000 to $3,000. Regular grandstand season ticket, $6,500. Daily, $1,000 to $2,500. Tickets go on sale at MysticOnlineTix.com. Starting June 11, Pegasus Hotel and the Stadium Ticket Office. Starting Monday, June 23. The action will be sizzling.
Come rise with sunrise. It's a mighty takeover. Our first stop is Wednesday service. Then it's time for liftoff with an aviation summer camp. We'll pause for some body art and we'll wrap the fun with WAGs, brought to you by TruePet. Why Not Wednesday is brought to you by Flow.
Welcome back. You are watching Lead Story on CVM TV. We're talking about this probe that is set to be done by the Office of the Public Defender into the operations and effectiveness of the nation's sex offenders registry. Joining me for the discussion this evening is none other than the nation's public defender herself, Mrs. Caroline Reed Cameron. Welcome to Lead Story, Mrs. Reed Cameron.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
Indeed, glad having you here with us. Now, we want to ask, as we know a lot of persons are asking, what would have prompted your office to launch this investigation into the sex offenders registry?
Well, we have received information as it relates to concerns from citizens about access to the registry and questions about its effectiveness. And our mandate under the Public Defender Act requires us to investigate when there are potential issues with how authorities implement their responsibilities. And then there came this recent incident which has aroused public discourse following certain tragic events, and which has more or less highlighted the need for a comprehensive review, in our view, to ensure that the registry is achieving its intended purpose. And as they say, there's no time like the present.
I get you. So under Section 15, as I would have been told, of the Public Defenders Act, the nation wants to understand what exactly are the powers that your office has in this type of investigation.
Well, our core function is that of investigating. So we try to access information that can inform our investigation.
Right.
And the information we get is usually accessed through public bodies. We have the power to go and inspect documents in circumstances where perhaps the average ordinary citizen cannot. We send out summons to persons who we believe can assist us with vital information. We have hearings, And when we shall have interviewed persons, collected statements, conducted hearings, reviewed documents to which we have gained access, then we are in a position to document findings or recommendations that we wish to make in relation to the situation that we are investigating.
So based on the recent incident, as you didn't go into detail, but what aspect of it would have prompted you in particular to say, hey, this is something we need to get on right now? As you said, there's no time like the present.
Well, there was public discourse ignited on the subject matter of the registry and access to the register, which would document sexual offenders who have been convicted in this country. So that subject matter is something that we thought would certainly cause us to move in that direction and to more or less trace the situation going back to its roots and whether or not the operations of the registry and access to the register is something has efficacy and which, we can utilize.
Now, this topic, Mrs. Reed Cameron, is a very, I would say, touchy, some would say emotional topic. When you think about all things considered, all the impacts, the different moving parts, we have to wonder how will your team, manage the investigation, because if it's a case where there is evidence gathering, formulating reports, assessing effectiveness, how will you and your team manage that aspect of it?
Well, we did a preliminary assessment long ago before we jumped off into this situation, and we more or less created a chart or charted a course that we wanted to follow. So we thought of gathering, doing our document gathering, going through our document gathering phase. We also looked at interviewing stakeholders and persons who would have an interest in the subject matter. We also looked at doing a comparative analysis by looking at all the material that was available in other jurisdictions that could assist us. We also looked at gathering statistics and data of that nature, all of which we believe can assist when there is an opportunity to assess them, assist us in coming to some conclusions, and perhaps put us in a position to make recommendations accordingly.
All right, so we're going to hold here for a break, and when we come back from the break, we are going to ask a little bit more about the preliminary review and see what areas we can hear a little bit more about when it comes on to, what are the questions, what are the answers, are there areas that are falling short, etc. So stick with us. We're still on Lead Story.
Every day starts with care. Care that's always close. Supermed Family of Pharmacies is where you go for everything you need. From your morning routine to life's biggest moments, Supermed Family of Pharmacies is always by your side. Whether it's prescriptions or household essentials, trust the care that's close to home. Super happy, Super healthy, super med.
Ready, tech, grow. Business is fast, easy, flexible, and costless. Oh, entrepreneurs, let's go digital. The government of Jamaica and European Union present Digital Jamaica Training Series. Learn how technology grows your business. Choose the right digital tool. Manage your staff, customers, and money digital. Data security and privacy. Artificial intelligence. We'll be in every parish. Apply online. www.jbdc.net. Log on fast. Digital Jamaica. Powering connectivity for MSMEs.
Get tiles and get creative with your floors, walls, and all the spaces in between. Our knowledgeable sales consultants are happy to help create your beautiful finish with the latest designs in first quality porcelain, wood look, vinyl, mosaics, natural stones, and countertops. At Creative, you will get every tile you need for your residential or commercial projects. Creative Building Finishes, your one-stop shop for everything tiles. Visit our showroom at 5 Red Hills Road or call 876-929-5553. Get tiles, get creative.
We're back with you. It is indeed Lead Story. We've been having this conversation with our public defender, and we are talking about the Sex Offenders Registry and the fact that the Office of the Public Defender has opened an investigation. We've been having a conversation looking at, just the nature of what the investigation will look like, what the office has done already, and what we've heard so far from Mrs. Reed Cameron is that the office itself would have looked at local, evidence, local papers, local information, local data, got that together, looked at international sources as well for data and information, gathered that, and would have done a preliminary review. So we're getting into this conversation now about the preliminary review, and we want to understand from Mrs. Reed Cameron about what particular areas would you say the registry may be falling short of the Sexual Offences Act, and what impacts would you say that has on the society at large?
Let me start by saying that I hope you understand that I am not going to use this opportunity to make a statement on all the issues that we may have identified in our preliminary assessment.
Indeed, totally understood. Yeah, so
okay.
Yeah, totally understood.
So when we started, one of the things we did, we looked at what was the stated objective of the registry, and this was derived from legislation and the policy documents that we were exposed to. And the preliminary assessment of the stated objectives, we could easily identify, for example, as tracking of convicted sexual offenders, reducing recidivism through monitoring of those sexual offenders, enabling risk management for protection of vulnerable populations, and providing information to authorized entities for protective purposes. And taking a preliminary look, we had, for example, some statutory implementation concerns. So, for example, publicly available information suggested that there may have been potential gaps between the statutory design of the registry and its practical implementation. What do I mean by that? There were things like limited evidence was available of systematic enforcement of registration requirements. So if it is that, for example, there was no measuring stick, or there was no information that can point you in the direction of having a clear and a transparent understanding of how these persons were being monitored, or if they were being monitored, clearly there would have been a gap, because we do not know if it is that these persons or the registry was meeting the requirements of monitoring these persons to keep us safe. There were possible inadequate coordination, I thought, between the registry and law enforcement agencies. And these are things that we want to probe and find out if they exist. Is this information that the registry possesses or the register possesses being utilized in investigation? Is it being utilized in the prosecution of these matters? For example, in addition to that, there were unclear mechanisms in place for verifying compliance with reporting conditions that were supposed to be the responsibility of convicts once being let out of detention or prison. They had to be reporting to the registry. And we want to determine in a factual way the extent to which these things were being met, if at all.
So in essence, Mrs. Reed Cameron, what I'm understanding and what I'm guessing my viewers are understanding as well, there may be a need to deep dive into what are the monitoring and compliance standards around the registry, and that juxtaposition right beside the Sexual Offences Act to ensure that there is the act is being implemented effectively. Is that what we should understand?
That is, yes, that is a correct understanding, but bear in mind, as I said earlier, that this area is not necessarily the only area in which we have identified issues, because I could go on to speak of other things, like access to information in the registry. There was no clear guideline that has been set up to allow for persons who are classified as persons with legitimate interest. And we don't know if it is that these are documented anywhere, but certainly in a preliminary way, we have not been able to see.
So the question also persons will be asking, Mrs. Reed Cameron, is what are the timelines? When will this investigation be done? Is this a 6 months investigation? Is this a 1 year investigation? What are the expectations?
Well, when I started this venture, I had in mind, or had given the thought to approximately 7 months as being the timeline within which to complete this investigation. But as you're aware, a lot of what I am trying to achieve is heavily dependent on the receipt of documentation from third parties, other persons, which may very well impact how efficiently we will be able to accomplish the limitations on which we have set ourselves.
So I think this may be my final question to you, and a controversial one if I say so. So brace yourself, Mrs. Reed Cameron. In all 50 states of the United States of America, the Sexual Offenders Registry is open and accessible. Now, the question, especially in recent time, with all the things that would have happened and the decrying and the outcrying of particular areas from areas of society, left, right, center, the question is it the case that you would be one of the advocates for the Sexual Offenders Registry being an open registry in Jamaica land we love?
That I cannot say at this point in time. I am conducting an investigation and I go where the evidence leads me in terms of coming to an objective conclusion. Pursuant to that, a relevant recommendation.
I understand where you're coming from, because if you understand now in depth the systems, how they work, and seeing where it would have, real impact on the society if it were the case that the registry is open, then from your position as public defender, you could make that recommendation after your investigation?
Perhaps.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Mrs. Caroline Reed Cameron. She is Jamaica's public defender. The Office of the Public Defender has opened an investigation in, the systems, as it were, of our sex offenders registry, and should have listed that it's not just about the act, it's about many things, about monitoring and compliance and a number of other things that we couldn't get to go in. But that's all the time we have this evening. But stay tuned, because Lead Story Prime with George Davis comes exactly at 8, and right after I'm done, you'll have the news at 7. Have a pleasant evening. That was Lead Story.
Then it's time for liftoff with an aviation summer camp. We'll pause for some body art, and we'll wrap the fun with WAGs, brought to you by TruePet. Why Not Wednesday is brought to you by Flow.
Let's delve deep into the issues. We'll take you beneath the surface.
Greetings and salutations. My name is Orville Higgins, and it's another edition of Fan Central.
Talking to the people at